For decades, Mel Gibson stood as one of Hollywood's brightest icons. With Lethal Weapon, he became the ultimate action hero. With Braveheart, he became an Oscar-winning director. And with The Passion of the Christ, he became one of the most powerful storytellers in cinema. Audiences loved him, studios depended on him, and peers respected him. By the mid-90s, he was not only a superstar, he was untouchable. But Hollywood is a place where the line between triumph and tragedy is razor thin. One scandal, one wrong word, one betrayal, and the empire crumbles. Gibson learned this lesson the hardest way possible. Behind the fame was a man scarred by alcohol abuse, explosive temper, and deep-seated controversies. Yet what truly crushed him were not just his own demons, but the people who once stood beside him only to abandon, expose, or condemn him when he was most vulnerable. At 59, Gibson was no longer the golden boy. He was a man fighting against exile, trying to rise from a pit of scandal while carrying the scars of 5 very public betrayals. From trusted friends and collaborators, to lovers who weaponized his secrets, to Hollywood colleagues who reopened old wounds, these betrayals nearly destroyed him. Tonight, we dive into each of them. These are not vague whispers. These are real people, real names, and real scars. For years, Jodie Foster and Mel Gibson were an unlikely Hollywood duo. Both were Oscar-winning actors. Both had reputations for brilliance, and both kept tight circles of trust. Their friendship was genuine. Foster once described Gibson as the most loyal friend you could ever have. When Gibson's scandals exploded in the mid-2000s, Jodie Foster was one of the only voices who defended him publicly. She cast him in her 2011 film The Beaver, insisting that talent should not be erased by personal flaws. For Gibson, her loyalty meant everything. She seemed to prove that not everyone in Hollywood would abandon him. But as the controversy surrounding him grew louder, even Foster began to retreat. At red carpets, she avoided questions about him. In interviews, her defense grew quieter, more careful. Hollywood pressure mounted, and even someone as powerful as Foster couldn't risk her career by standing too close. For Gibson, this was a quieter betrayal, not a dagger to the chest, but a slow withdrawal of warmth. The woman he believed would fight alongside him instead chose silence. It was not cruel, not vicious, but it was abandonment all the same. In the brutal world of Hollywood, silence from a friend can feel like the loudest betrayal of all. If there was one person Mel Gibson thought would never leave, it was Robyn Moore. They married in 1980 and built a life far removed from Hollywood excess. Together, they had 7 children, a sprawling Malibu estate, and a reputation as one of the rare stable couples in the film industry. But decades of Gibson's alcoholism, mood swings, and eventual scandals took their toll. In 2009, at the height of his public disgrace, Robyn filed for divorce. The timing was devastating. Just as Gibson needed stability, his marriage collapsed. The settlement was staggering. Over $400 million, one of the costliest divorces in Hollywood history. For Gibson, the money was secondary. The true wound was emotional. Robyn had been there before the Oscars, before Braveheart, before global fame. She knew him at his best and his worst. And yet, when the storm hit hardest, she walked away. To the public, it looked like a woman escaping chaos. To Gibson, it felt like betrayal. The divorce not only ended a marriage, it destroyed his image as a devoted family man. Tabloids plastered headlines about his broken home, turning him from Hollywood hero into tragic cautionary tale. For Gibson, the collapse of his marriage was proof that no crown, no matter how bright, could protect him from the pain of personal betrayal. If Robyn Moore's divorce shattered Gibson's foundation, his relationship with Russian pianist Oksana Grigorieva burned the remains to ashes. At first, it seemed like redemption. Oksana was younger, vibrant, and in 2009, they welcomed a daughter. Gibson spoke of love and new beginnings. But within months, the relationship descended into chaos. Fights turned violent. Accusations of abuse filled the tabloids. And soon the world heard what Gibson sounded like in his darkest rages. Oksana released audio recordings of Gibson screaming vile profanities, threatening violence, and spiraling out of control. The tapes went viral across the globe. Overnight, Gibson became Hollywood's pariah. Studios severed all ties. Actors publicly condemned him. Fans recoiled. What made it unbearable was not just the damage to his career, it was the betrayal of trust. Those were words spoken in private, in his home, in moments of rage he thought would never see daylight. But Oksana ensured the world would hear every second. The legal battle that followed was brutal. Custody disputes, restraining orders, and endless tabloid coverage left Gibson humiliated. He believed he had found love again, but instead he found the greatest weapon used against him: his own voice, turned into ammunition. To this day, those recordings remain etched into his legacy. For many, Gibson will forever be the man on those tapes, not the Oscar-winning director, not the action hero, but the broken voice of rage and regret. By the late 2000s, Gibson's career was already on life support. But in 2010, Winona Ryder gave an interview that reopened old wounds. She claimed that at a Hollywood party in the mid-90s, Gibson had directed anti-Semitic slurs toward her and a gay friend. Her story hit the press at the very moment Gibson was trying to rebuild. For Ryder, it was simply speaking her truth. For Gibson, it felt like betrayal. They had once been friendly colleagues in overlapping circles, never enemies. Yet her words reignited the outrage and reminded the public of his ugliest reputation. Hollywood can forgive many sins, but it rarely forgives repeated ones. Ryder's interview made sure Gibson could not bury the past. Every effort to move forward was dragged back by headlines quoting her accusations. Whether or not Gibson remembered the night as she told it was irrelevant, the damage was done. A single interview from a respected star added legitimacy to every criticism of him. For Gibson, it was as if another ally had chosen the other side. By 2012, Gibson saw one final chance at redemption. He teamed up with Joe Eszterhas, a famed Hollywood screenwriter, to create The Maccabees, a biblical epic he hoped would prove his artistry and restore his reputation. But the collaboration soured quickly. Eszterhas accused Gibson of constant rage, anti-Semitic remarks, and violent outbursts during their partnership. When Warner Brothers dropped the project, Eszterhas went public, publishing a lengthy letter that painted Gibson as a monster behind closed doors. The letter exploded across headlines. It wasn't just gossip, it was a respected screenwriter confirming the very worst stories about Gibson. Suddenly, the whispers weren't whispers anymore. They were accusations, signed, sealed, and delivered for the world to read. For Gibson, it was the ultimate betrayal. A man he had trusted with his comeback project had turned into his executioner. The dream of redemption collapsed, and with it, Gibson's last hope of regaining Hollywood's trust. By 59, Mel Gibson had endured more than scandal. He had lived through 5 brutal betrayals: Jodie Foster's retreat into silence, Robyn Moore's devastating divorce, Oksana Grigorieva's leaked tapes, Winona Ryder's damning accusations, and Joe Eszterhas's explosive letter. Each betrayal carved away a piece of his career, his reputation, and his legacy. Yet Gibson remains a paradox. In 2016, he directed Hacksaw Ridge, earning 6 Oscar nominations and a taste of redemption. Some argue it proved that talent can survive scandal. Others believe the betrayals left wounds too deep to ever heal. His story is not just about personal demons, it is about the brutal truth of fame. In Hollywood, loyalty is fragile. Trust is fleeting, and the higher you rise, the more devastating the fall. Because in the end, Mel Gibson's tale is not just one of betrayal. It is a warning that in the city of stars, crowns shine bright, but they fade fast, and when they fade, they leave only scars.